G'day chaps. As men, we have a few simple desires in life. We desire war, guns, alcohol, climbing mountains, and destroying aging empires barely holding themselves together under a weight of internal and external problems. Well, I'm happy to tell you that all these things can be experienced in Isonzo. Isonzo is the third game in the World War I game series, developed by M2H and Black Mill Games, who have been attempting over the course of 3 games to create the ultimate World War I experience. Well, their first World War I game, Verdun, is a perfect simulation of running headfirst into machine gun fire in the Western Front. Sadly, I have to deduct points for not being 100% historical accurate, as your soldier is not drowning in mud while suffering from PTSD, trench foot and the Spanish flu at the time of his death. Their second game, Tannenberg, being much more open, until they shrunk the fucking maps down, with their maps and designs with rolling hills and beautiful forests, while simulating the experience of sending thousands of Russians to their deaths on the Eastern Front, while dreaming happy little dreams of communist revolution and freedom for the Polish state. Their latest game, Isonzo, is their best attempt yet at simulating the hopeless nihilism of the Great War. Story: Isonzo takes place on the Italian front of the First World War, where you'll play as either the Italians, Austro-Hungarians, or the Germans, fighting to the death to see who is able to climb the mountains of the Alps in record time. Factions: there are currently 3 factions to play at time of writings. Italians: the Italians, in the First World War, had a treaty with the Germans and Austro-Hungarians, honour bounding them to a defensive alliance in case any of them were attacked. Thankfully, because Austria-Hungary chose to bully Serbia first, the Italians used the power of legalese and rules lawyering. They didn't have to join the war, and instead, when the British and French showed up offering them a whole bunch of other people's land, the Italians, embracing their inner Praetorian Guard, chose to betray their former allies for personal gain, beginning a campaign of fighting 12 different battles over the same bloody place, while losing 531,000 men for their troubles. Austro-Hungary! Austria-Hungary is the sick old man of Europe, a failing empire created by an unhappy marriage between Austria and Hungary that decided, like many failing empires before them, that the greatest idea in the world would be to bully some Slavs in the Balkans, only to end up suffering the consequences for their poor decision making. This is all your fault. You are the ones that started this mess, and you're going to have to live with it. Your soldiers are all unhappy, demoralized, and wishing for the empire's destruction about as much as your enemies are. Germans! The German Empire, realizing that they fucked up by giving Austria-Hungary a blank check, is that one guy in your friends group who keeps having to save everyone and keep your friend group functioning while everything collapses around them. With the Austro-Hungarians having fucked up, you are now having to prop up your ally and remind the Italians that they really should have finished off the German people back when they had a chance during the glory days of the Roman Empire. Gameplay! This is a World War I first-person shooter, where your job is to take or defend small slivers of land using the blood and bodies of hundreds of nameless conscripts. A friendly reminder that this is a World War I game, so do not get attached to your nameless, friendless conscript that you're playing, as you are going to die. A lot. In order to achieve victory for your current faction, you have a number of classes to play as and abilities to use in your quest for domination over the shitty mountains of Europe. These are, in no particular order: Rifleman. This is your average, illiterate, shit-covered peasant conscript. You have a gun. You have a knife. You have no idea what you are doing, and it is your job to fight and die for distant monarchs. Eventually, when you survive long enough to know that you don't know anything, you get access to things like rifle grenades so you can rain down death on other illiterate plebs such as yourself. Assault! You are not a pleb. You are the elite. As an assault, you get access to the finest weapons your faction can offer: submachine guns, light machine guns, grenades, pistols, carbines, and an overwhelming desire to listen to Sabaton soundtracks. You are the vanguard of each attack, and your actions usually lead to either early success or instant death for your team. Mountaineer! I don't know, I've never played this class. When other classes get machine guns, poison gas, rifle grenades, and sniper rifles, it's hard to get motivated by having a pair of binoculars, which you probably used for illegal sexual surveillance before the war. Officers! Officers are the guys in charge of running the ground level operations of this shit show. You have a whistle to wrangle your horde of illiterate tards who keep running into machine gun fire, and to order charges when they lose motivation by being distracted by butterflies and thoughts of communist revolution. You are the only one able to call in abilities to aid your team, including airstrikes, artillery, and clouds of poisonous war crimes, so it is your job to coordinate your men to charge at the enemy objective. Officers, despite not being my favourite class, is the one class I actually play most often, as somehow I end up being the only one on my team time and time again who actually tries to use coordination and tactics for some semblance of strategy for my team. Engineer. As an engineer, you have a magic hammer stolen from Fix-It Felix after you mugged him on the streets of Vienna. You can use this hammer to create machine gun emplacements, artillery guns, barbed wire, sandbags, and other defences. It is your job to be a Hindu deity, and both create and destroy in order to help your fellow countrymen achieve victory. You also are given a gun, but if you're actually using it and not camping your own machine gun nests, then you are playing this class completely wrong. Finally, Sniper! You have a gun, you have a scope, and it's your job to kill as many of your fellow men as possible from 800 yards away or more. I recommend finding somewhere high, staying out of the way of direct enemy engagement, and for advanced level tactics, target officers and machine guns first. Weaponry! Each class naturally uses a variety of weapons to exterminate your fellow man in the most efficient manner. So listen, you are fighting in the Great War. Adolf Hitler won't invent assault rifles for another 25 years, so you're gonna have to make do with what you got. Bolt-action rifles, revolvers, cumbersome light automatic weapons, and bizarre semi-automatic pistols are your friends. Many of these weapons cannot be reloaded mid-magazine, so making your shots count and keeping an eye on your ammo count is recommended. This is called realism and historical accuracy. If you're not into this, then I highly recommend Call of Duty Vanguard for all your historical accuracy needs. Progression! To stave off shell shock and keep you invested in perpetuating the cycle of war, there is a far more in-depth progression system than the previous games in the series. Instead of earning tokens for playing to unlock new weapons, you now have a small number of challenges in addition to leveling up in order to unlock new weapons and abilities, including unlocking the weapons of your opposing faction, as the grass is always greener when it comes to a nation's firearm. Graphics! Listen, this is actually a rather beautiful game in my opinion, and I am very biased, but I like to play this game without a HUD and get immersed into the world and the sounds of screaming, dying Italian farmers. While the graphics won't tax a 3090 anytime soon, it is still a nice game to look at with plenty of detailing on the weapons and the corpses of your former friends. Customization! While in the previous game you always controlled the same handful of dirty conscripts destined to die alone, unmourned, unloved, and unremembered in a foreign field, in Isonzo you get to customize your look and create your ultimate fashion-conscious peasant conscript, giving you greater emotional attachment to your ultimately doomed soldier. However, I am afraid that the Austrian painter moustache is a separate DLC. On the subject of DLC, may as well mention that there is a small number of DLC cosmetic packs in this game. These unlock more fashion options for your soldier, however you do not need these, they do not give you any advantage, so feel free to ignore them unless you're invested in high fashion. So, we've established that this game is objectively the best mountain climbing murder simulator on the market, which is available on Steam and those things people call consoles, I don't know, for some unit of your local nation's currency. Here in New Zealand, we still use a barter-based economic system, so this game cost me 2 bags of wool and a duck egg to acquire. Now, where to from here? Well, after the Italians got reminded about why the Germans are the worst again for the 900th time in their history, the Italians begged the Gauls and the Britons for aid, so the British and the French did send a number of divisions to help hold the line for the Italians in the Italian front. So I think being able to play as the British and French, and getting a chance to use the greatest rifle ever invented, would be an awesome and greatly appreciated path forward for this game currently. But, the greater question, where to next after this game? We've suffered the mud of the Western Front, the snow of the East, and the Alps of Italy. Where should the next 1914 conscript extermination simulator take place? Well, some say it should be the Middle East or Africa. Others like the idea of fighting Gallipoli. While it would be an awesome experience to fight on the same battlefields as 2 of my great-grandfathers at Anzac Cove, I have another idea. Do you know what place on Earth was created so that the rest of the planet would seem more boring? That's right, the Balkans. Taking part in the Macedonian campaign would be an awesome chance to explore a lesser-known front of World War I, It would allow you to fight as the British, French, Greeks and Serbians on the Allied side, while giving you ample opportunity to bully Bulgarians, grief Germans and humiliate Austro-Hungarians in the Central Powers side. So that's my deep dive and highly thought out objective review of Isonzo. Let me know what you think in the empty void of the comments below, and if anyone would like to send me a 1915 French Chauchat light machine gun, or teach me Photoshop, please let me know. I have 4 sheep and a cow to offer in trade. Well, cheers chaps, and I shall see you all again another time.